esports, and why did you decide to go it alone?
Um, we had worked for a company called Interceptor Entertainment, and uh, it was going pretty good when it started, but eventually we kind of uh, sort of got tired of working on games where we weren't in control. We really wanted to make our own thing, and we had for like years. And it was kind of, the company was, we could see it was kind of sort of slowing down or whatever, and we thought, oh, we might as well leave a little bit early, before we lose our jobs or something. And the company did fold shortly after we left, I think a couple of months later, but they've sort of, they somehow got back out of bankruptcy and stuff, and they reformed as another company called Slipgate, but it's the same guys. So they still keep going on, and they're still going today.
That's great. I'm actually really glad that they got back up and
yeah, it's pretty cool
as it was, as it were.
Yeah.
And so, what were you doing just before starting a Medieval?
Yeah, we were working on a game called Rad Rogers, which is a platformer for Interceptor Entertainment. And yeah, it was coming near the end of that dev cycle for that game as well. And we, just left before then.
Okay. And so, I mean, you absolutely nailed it with a Medieval.
Yeah.
What was the go, no-go process, and how did you get a sense of that it was worth developing?
Well, a Medieval was very interesting because we kind of did all the things you're not supposed to. We didn't have any design documents or anything. We just started with Simon had made this like normal mapped nearest neighbor thing, this like mix of old school and new school. So it was like PBR, but yeah, not filtered textures and stuff, low res textures. And it just looked really cool. And we were kind of like, wonder if you could do a sprite, like a weapon sprite with that full on normal maps and whatnot. And that looked really good. So we kind of went from there, and we kind of thought, oh, what would be cool? And I was like, how about a big battle axe or something? And that's kind of where a Medieval took off from. We had done like a Doom mod back in the day called a Medieval that never went anywhere. So we reused the name, and we also had some designs from another game which was like going to be a top-down game called a Medieval as well. And we used some ideas from that in the actual game that finally came out. So it was a bit unconventional, really, going into it, but it seemed to work. We just kind of went along with what would be cool, and that seemed to work really well.
Yeah, it certainly has done.
Yeah.
I mean, one sort of non-business question, or actually it might be business. I just thought, what made you choose the Unreal Engine over Unity as your game engine?
Well, we had been working with Unreal Engine for a long time, probably like 5 years or so, like professionally. So we knew how to use it, which is a big deal because if you're coming just into Unreal Engine, it's got quite a lot of quirks and stuff like that it takes a while to learn all these little things. But yeah, we were very familiar with it, so we went with it. And it charges 5% of the gross on what you make. But I think you don't get charged that if you make under 3,000 per quarter US, which is pretty cool if you're, by yourself or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, and did you look at Unity or other engines, or was it
not really? Because yeah, we were so familiar with Unreal, so we didn't really bother.
That's great. I mean, as far as I'm aware now, they bundle whole games, source code for whole games with when you get the engine. Is that right?
For Unreal Engine?
Yeah.
It's open source, I believe. You sign up with Epic, and then they let you onto their GitHub, and you can do whatever with it. But we never did any source changes. Our stuff is all pretty much vanilla UE4.
Right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
You self-funded. What was the process behind
that? Years of saving, and so I borrowed some money from my family as well. That type of thing, which is very risky. Like me and Simon, when we went into it, I was kind of like, we've got to give it a shot, you know, and if it all goes to shit, it all goes to shit, you know, we just have to have a try at it. And like, I was hoping to get the money back at the very least that I put in, and we did, which is really good. We got way more than that, so it worked out really well.
That's fantastic. I love to hear success stories like that, you know.
Yeah.
But you didn't even decide. You decided against a quick Kickstarter or even
Yeah.
seeking publisher funding. Why was
Yeah,
that?
that's right. Well, it's a gamble, really. Like, we had enough to fund me and Simon. Basically, it was me and him who worked on 90% of the game. We also had a guy, Chris, do some concept arts and stuff. And then we had Andrew who did the music. He was a big part of it, but yeah, he got paid like a small amount compared to what he would normally get. But then he gets a percentage of the sales to make up for that. So we had that. But what was I saying?
Yeah, I just asked you. You didn't go for a Kickstarter or anything like that.
Yeah, we didn't go for a Kickstarter. We went to New Blood and we were like, oh, we're making this game. What do you think of it? And Dave was kind of like, I don't like it that much. So he was like, but come back in a couple of months and I'll see. Because we were only about a month into development and it really wasn't that good looking back. But at the time, we thought it was cool. But anyway, so that helped us kind of get some motivation. We made it really cool. Came back a couple of months later and he's like, oh, yeah, this is really good. And we asked him about, I think we did ask him about Kickstarter. And he was like, oh, it can be quite arduous. You've got to like really be onto it and you've got to make merchandise and all this kind of thing. And we really didn't need it at the end of the day. We did submit an Epic grant and get an Epic grant, which basically saved us. Yeah, which really helped. That was a huge deal. But in the long run, like the amount that Epic gave us, they'll probably get back in royalties this year.
Yeah, so, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's their plan as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're funding quite a lot of stuff at the moment that if you use the Unreal Engine, they will fund a prototype. Is that right?
They have, originally they had Epic grants, which ranged from, I think it was like 1,000 to 50,000, depending on what you were doing. And they arbitrarily gave it out depending on what the project was. And it was for anything. It could be anything Unreal related, like a book about Unreal Engine or whatever. But I believe they've stopped doing that. And now they're doing a thing called Epic Mega Grants, where they're like $100,000 plus. And they're to start games, I believe, you know, like get people going. I'm not too sure what that, I haven't really looked into it, but yeah, well, that could be an option for some people.
Well, I've applied for a 500,000 one myself, so I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted, right?
Amazing. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thanks. So, how long did it take you to develop the idea from concept through to publishing?
Well, like I said, we had this other idea for a medieval like years ago when it was a Doom mod, and then we also had that other later edition where it was a top-down game. We knew we wanted to make a first-person shooter where you're like a cool battle mage, you're like powerful, not weak, and it kind of follows along Doom a lot in terms of gameplay, and we kind of went from there. We used that combat loop as a base for the combat in the game, but then our levels, we love making levels, so we made our own cool levels, you know, that are fully 3D and fun to play. But we didn't really have we didn't really have any concepts much or design documents. It was more let's just go for it and see what happens, which, like I said before, is very unusual and like quite often we'll get people mired down. But since it's only two of us, we kind of know what we wanted, which made it easier. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and if you're fast and you've got good tools, you can make it as fast as you can write it down, right?
That's what we did.
And what did you learn during that process? Is there anything that you do differently?
Yeah, I think we might have made too much content for the game. Like, it has 30 plus levels or something, and I think 60 plus enemies. Like, it was, because it's all modular, it was very easy to make this stuff, and we kind of were like, maybe there's too much. And some people did complain that, like, there's like 7 episodes in the game, and they did complain like, oh, you only get to play this cool like section of the game for only 3 or 4 levels, and then it's over in that set of enemies. Like, if we'd maybe made them longer and ranged it in, might have been cooler and easier for us as well.
Right, great. So are you planning to sort of implement that for the sequel? Are you doing a sequel?
Well, yeah, we're actually working on a completely different game. But yeah, taking lessons learned from Medieval. Even though I would say Medieval, out of all the games we've worked on, has been very, very smooth development, which is extremely unusual because every other game I've worked on has always encountered some kind of crazy problem halfway through. There'll be like some system doesn't work, or the game crashes, or whatever. And we didn't have any of that. It just kind of all worked, which is spooky for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been an incredible story.
Yeah.
When did you get a sense that a Medieval would be a hit? What were the early signs?
I think we had a trailer or something out, and it got a lot of good comments on it. Everybody was like, wow, this looks cool, all that kind of stuff. Got a lot of views. And then we took the game to PAX, and just like everybody that played it really liked it. They were like, whoa, man, this is cool. And I was kind of thinking, oh, awesome. Like, somebody actually likes it. Like, if one person likes it, I was like, awesome. But everybody seemed to like it. We had a huge, like, at the whole of all the indie booths, like, ours had like this massive crowd around it. Like, everybody else kind of had, small ones. And I was kind of thinking, like, when that happened. And then also we went into early access a couple of months later, and it did pretty well. Like, it was going good. And then, yeah, so that kind of got us going a bit more motivated too. It was good.
Well, that's great. And so did you do much prior to PAX and prior to making the trailer to find that community and grow that community?
Yes, actually. New Blood was very handy for that because they already had kind of a fan base building up with Dusk.
New Blood, your publishing partner?
Yeah, they're the publisher. Right. And they had a kind of a following with Dusk starting up. And we kind of had a small following of people from Intercept that had followed us with Interceptor as well, on the games that we'd worked on for them. And there's a Discord. New Blood has a Discord, and it had quite a few people. I think 5,000 people on it or something at the time. And so we started saying, AE. We just said AE, and everybody was like, "What the hell is AE?" And then that kind of built it up a bit as well. When we finally revealed what it was, everybody was taking guesses of what it stood for.
That's a very cool way of introducing it, actually.
Yeah.
Through intrigue, right?
Yeah.
And how many people did you take over from Interceptor?
Well, it was just me and Simon were like the main team. And then, Andrew was from Interceptor as well, who did the music. And we had Chris Pollitt, who did some concepts for us. He was there as well. And James, the QA, he did QA for us. He was worked at Interceptor for a bit as well. So there wasn't, I don't think there was anybody new that didn't work at Interceptor before. A very small team for this game.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually meant the following. How many people did you take
over? How many people did we get?
How many people did you bring to New Blood, as it were?
I'm not sure, like, to quantify it, but there was a bit of overlap. I mean, that whole retro FPS community kind of go around the same Discords and websites and whatnot. So they just noticed that I was there, and then more people sort of showed up. Because I've always been a big interactor with the community, with like, I would like stream stuff or talk to people in chat rooms and whatnot.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, how important have you found that?
That's extremely important. I think, like, it helps a ton. can talk directly to people and get like direct feedback. It's awesome. We respond to like every single forum post we get about our game, every single bug thing. I like always troll the internet on Google looking for comments about my game to see what people say and try and make it better. And that whole early access, like that period, we had great feedback. We were able to make the game virtually bug free from that too, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's great. A virtually bug-free game is always a bonus.
Yeah, there's always like
Head
one or
start
two
just
minor
there.
things, but yeah, on the whole, it worked really well.
And how often did you stream, like live stream? Record?
I don't think I did any streaming with the Medieval, but I did with previous games for Interceptor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so you decided to, was it a publishing partnership, or did New Blood actually publish the game?
They it's like a partnership. Yeah, they basically did the marketing for a percentage of sales and provided QA as well, which was really handy, which is massive actually. A lot of people underestimate the power of QA. Like they will help your game a lot, and you have to listen to them as well, because if you just kind of go yeah, it's they quite often have their hand on what people are thinking, like the majority of people out there. So
Yeah, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you work on licensed family entertainment stuff, the publisher won't release it unless you address the QA feedback.
Yeah, that's good.
And you know, at least 70% of the bugs, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I had a question about that actually. Then,
Yeah.
So that deal, did they give you an advance, or they just?
No, they didn't put any money in at all.
But they did all the marketings and the
Yep.
QA, so they spent their
Yep.
own money on getting it out there.
Yeah, and then like the trade shows, they paid for all of that, and like the trailer, they made that.
Right. Okay.
They did like a good chunk of the mark, like basically all of it was well worth.
Yeah, it was well worth it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. You know, do you think you could have done as good a job yourself if you published it yourself?
No way.
Mm. Great. And did you negotiate hard on the deal? Were you able to get a percentage that was reasonable?
Yes, we did. Like we didn't have to negotiate hard because I already knew Dave from he had worked on the very first game that Interceptor did. He was like a producer, and I already knew how strong he was at marketing, and he has a lot of really good contacts in the industry. So that was my first choice for like going to somebody to help with marketing.
That's great. And was that a worldwide marketing campaign? Were most of your sales in the States?
Most of our sales are in the States. It was like mainly through social media. The marketing was done. There was no print ads or anything like that.
Okay. And so with that, they were your first choice, so they'd already got marketing experience and publishing experience.
Well, they had just kind of started up with Dusk, but I already knew a few other people that did publishing, that I had worked with and stuff. But yeah, I really felt like New Blood was the one that like would work because Dusk is so along the same lines as well.
Yeah.
So I knew that he was the right guy to go to for that genre as well.
And are they a New Zealand-based firm?
No, yes, they are now. Dave literally just moved to New Zealand 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow!
To Dunedin, and he's now head of. He's not head of. He's a studio director for Rocketworks, which is Dean Hall's company. Dean Hall, who made DayZ.
Right.
So he's they've got a studio in Dunedin in New Zealand, and Dave is looking after the Dunedin one. But they were previously based in San Diego.
Understood.
Yeah.
So in addition to the Discord stuff and the marketing, and the early access on Steam, what else did the New Blood do for you? Where else? How else did they market?
They probably put out press releases and stuff like that, because we did get picked up by quite a few news sites and online magazines and stuff. And like I said, the trade shows and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
all helped quite a lot. You get noticed, like if you're at a trade show, people from all those magazines and whatnot come around and talk to you about it, which helps a lot to get things out there. And PAX was really good because they have the indie booths specifically for people that are just small, which is really good.
Great. And is the game localized, or do you have any plans for localizing?
We're in the process of localizing it at the moment.
Great. And will you be providing downloadable content for the game, or are you focused on the new thing now?
We are doing an RTX build of the game to work with RTX cards. Mm-hmm. So that should be interesting. And there is a little bit of new content for that as well, coming for free. We do want to eventually maybe do an expansion for it, but we're still thinking about that.
Thank you. And have you released the title of your new game yet? What
no.
you want at the moment? Okay.
No, so we're still like concepting it basically, and we're spending a bit more time on that phase of it, really getting it like to be cool before we go further with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will you be expanding the team, or is it you and Simon you're gonna?
Yeah, we probably will be expanding the team, because Medieval did make quite a decent amount of money to be able to fund like us to be able to hire some new people.
Well done.
Which is cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really great. And so what advice do you have for other indies right now? You're in a unique position to share, I think, with them.
Yeah, well, our case is kind of probably pretty unique in terms of we had quite a bit of experience working for other companies before we split off, and there was me and Simon a partnership which both had strong developer skills, helped a lot, and we know how to make something and make it fast and the right way and all that kind of thing. So for somebody starting out, I mean, it probably helps to really, if you're like completely new, like try modding a few games and stuff like that would probably help a lot to get a feel for sort of how the basics work. But yeah, or you could go to a course, a university course or something. But starting a company is always a risk. Like you got to be sure of what you want to make, and you got to budget it out and everything. We did all that. We actually did budget it out and made sure we had enough to go on and all this kind of thing. Because it takes ages to make games as well. A lot of people don't really realize. I'd say like most of them 2 to 3 years, which people wouldn't think that. But I know that stuff like Stardew Valley took 5 years. I think Undertale was about as long, and they don't look that complicated, but they really are when you get down to it. So
yeah, it's quite an undertaking to make something independently. I mean, I think we're in year 2 now of our game, and we've only reached prototype stage.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got 2 levels maybe, but they are quite polished, and it feels nice. But I'm much rather an advocate of get a small piece of the game to finished, so you really get the quality of what you're going to get at the end, and then just make more of that.
That's like a vertical slice type thing. Yeah.
Rather than make a huge sprawling 3D walkthrough that you then have to fill in with fun.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we're doing as well. We're really making like 3 levels that we want to get like really polished.
Yeah.
And then we can start showing it off, because don't want to show off stuff before it's finished. I really don't like showing off prototypey stuff, but Dave was really into that. He was always tweets my like in progress work. Always like, don't do that, but then everybody ends up loving it, which is pretty
Yeah,
interesting. So I guess he's
yeah.
got good intuition for stuff like that.
I suppose people like to be in early, so they
Yeah,
sort of
they do. Yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on. Mhm.
yeah. And yeah, I'd say yes, like social media. Like I've seen people post grey box stuff for Unity where it's just like a mannequin running around, and people are like, oh my god, and I get like 20,000 likes or whatever on it, and you're like, whoa. So
Wow.
you never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today. It's you've been really concise. It's been really helpful, actually.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
how can people reach you if they want to
Uh, yeah, they can
connect?
find me on the New Blood Discord if they want to talk to me straight away, or yeah, email me at leonzavada@gmail.com. LinkedIn, I guess, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on everything basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, what would you say was the sort of most important thing for new developers to think about?
Um, if they're going full on like commercial, like with a company and everything, I would say like definitely look into like starting up your business properly, with an accountant, all that kind of stuff. Try and do it right. Like it makes a huge difference in the end, and especially with budgeting your stuff that because like you think, oh, it won't really matter that much, but it does. Like getting all the basics of actual some business um
Absolutely. I mean, I don't
stuff
know
going. Yeah.
if you have the same thing in New Zealand, if you have any tax breaks, like we have tax breaks here in the
No,
UK.
we don't.
Okay. No.
Which I'm like, ugh. But I believe the government is looking into that because the movie industry gets tons, and like, what's the difference? Same deal, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
And and a good accountant can get you some money back in those circumstances.
definitely, yeah. Which my accountant has, like I thought, oh shit, when I went to do it, and she's like, oh, if you do this, you can get this amount of money back. I was like, awesome. Pay less tax for certain things.
Yeah, thank you. Good advice. You're the only person that suggested that in all of the interviews I've done. So thank you.
Really?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots of people have, production, it's usually about time and budget, but actually getting good professionals to back you up.
It
Uh,
does help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course it does. Yeah. And then
Yeah, I would think like if you can find somebody that's like a business person as well, just for advice would probably be good too. Because like everybody always knows somebody that's like started some company or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And then when it is successful, when the royalties do start coming in, then you're protected.
Yeah. As well. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.